From a $200 million acquisition to a $100 million in sales volume. Today, we're going to be talking to Arthur Goodrich, a Sotheby's agent in Napa and Sonoma. Arthur spent the first 25 years of his career in the medtech space. That company went on to be acquired by Stryker. And instead of retiring and sailing off into the sunset, Arthur decided to start his new venture, luxury real estate. So Arthur runs and operates both the Goodrich Group and Mayastoga, which is a luxury vacation rental business up in Napa and Sonoma's wine country with over 20 properties throughout. And this gives him a unique pulse on the market that other agents simply do not have. And in today's episode, we talk about overlaps between corporate structure, relationship building between his medtech days and his luxury real estate days, and why his clients keep coming back deal after deal. So stick around, enjoy the conversation. Be sure to like and subscribe for more incredible luxury real estate content. So here we are with Arthur Goodrich. This is the first episode, so appreciate you coming on. If you want to introduce yourself to, I suppose, anyone that doesn't know who you are, a little bit about yourself first.
Yeah, sure. My name is Arthur Goodrich. I am living in Napa Valley, in the what we call the Up Valley section of Napa, which includes Calistoga, St. Helena. And I've been here probably, 10 years now. I bought my first home about 15 years ago, was living in San Francisco, working in the healthcare industry for about 25 years, and retired from that and decided to, come to Napa Valley full time, and have really thoroughly enjoyed it since. And joined Sotheby's about 5 years ago, just starting my real estate career after, somebody suggested that. So anyway, that's kind of a thumbnail why I'm here and a little background.
Great. So that actually leads me into the first question I wanted to ask. What kind of systems, strategies, was there any real overlap from the kind of med tech days to exactly what you're doing now?
I think it's a good question, but I really, this business is a relationship business. And one thing that I think that, a lot of agents don't do, and if I'm getting ahead of myself, let me know. But I think that approaching this as a profession rather than just a hobby or an activity to fill space. And I think a lot of agents do that, and that's nothing wrong with that. They're just, if you're going to be super successful and if your clients are going to see that you bring that professionalism to them, then you have to focus on this full time. And I think, having a corporate background for 25 years and working in a corporate environment and working, raising money on Wall Street and, even before that, going through private equity, things. I mean, that all helps to create kind of who you are and also your professional approach to things. So that's how I've approached it. When one of my closest friends, who actually I saw last night, who's visiting, I sold her house. She was my very first listing. And when I was thinking about this, she said, you ought to do real estate, because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do after I'd, finished up my healthcare. And I said, no, I don't want to do real estate. Everybody hates realtors, So, and she said, I said, because it just doesn't seem like it's a profession. She goes, that's why you need to do it, right? Because it needs that. And that was my first listing, and it sold, and it was very successful. So I got to see them last night. They were visiting from South Carolina, which is really nice. So
okay. And how did you find the kind of transition from, like you said, more corporate to a bit more relationship building? Would you say real estate is a bit more relationship heavy than corporate, especially at the levels you were working at in corporate?
Yeah,
relationships.
Yeah. That's a good question. I think in life, we're all salespeople. We are always selling ourselves, period. And no matter, what you do, whether you work for yourself or you work for a big company, you're always, looking out for yourself and trying to selling yourself. So I think, and so it's really relationships and how you approach those. And certain businesses, yes, and industries and professions are more, more tied to relationships, and real estate is absolutely one of those. I think that, there's no way I could have been as successful as quickly as I have been without having built the relationships I already had, the friendships and so forth, but then also continuing to nurture those authentically, not just, you can't, people are going to figure you out if you're not being authentic. And I think that's one of the key things. You have to just be yourself and be authentic. And I was just reading a story yesterday about this young woman who has young children, and she um, did 400 sides last year because she just, she people appealed to her authenticity of being a mom and being, now that's hard to do when you have a mom, being a mom and do
Yeah.
400 sides. That's a lot. But the point is, I mean, she was just herself and she presented herself and her challenges and, but she was very focused on her career as a real estate agent. She is super successful, right? But authenticity, take away from that one.
Okay. Okay. So just on a little bit of a tangent here. So
Mhm.
of course you have built the Goodrich Group to big numbers right now, but you're also running Mayastoga, the luxury vacation property rental. Do you think having that kind of real-time pulse on the market with the vacation rentals gives you an edge over some realtors, or maybe kind of seeing a couple months into maybe the future markets for buyers or sellers in the area?
Yeah, that was the Mayastoga, the rental side I started that before I did the
Mm,
sales. And I didn't even have an idea that I was going to be doing sales when I was starting the rental side. The rental side just happened because I had an investment up here and, I wanted to monetize it. I was, happened to have a home that was in an area that allowed short-term rental. So, and I had a business partner that said, let's try it. And it just kind of evolved. And then we bought another house and other people started asking us and it was great. And then fast forward a couple of years when I started looking at the real estate side, the selling, um, I thought to myself, I think the thesis can kind of work because a lot of people do, everybody wants to visit Napa Valley at least once. I mean, that's kind
yeah.
of on everybody's bucket list. Um, a cross section of those, even if it's a very small, would like to live here. And so I have seen some interaction between those two businesses that actually lead to sales. Um, and actually other way around too. I've had a lot of people that have bought houses or want to buy houses that they can rent. And so, it's kind of gone both directions.
Okay. Okay.
But Mayasoga was kind of the first, and I didn't have any idea I was going to be selling real estate, but it's definitely a nice fit, those two together.
Yeah, for sure. So going way back now. So obviously you're originally from Texas and then retiring, quotes, in Napa Valley. How did you build up that real, authentic, local expertise so quickly? I know you've been there for 10 years now, but you're up against a lot of agents who are born and raised there. So how
I'm
do you
sure.
kind of curate that real, authentic, because like we said again, real, authentic local experience?
Yeah. Um, well, I mean, like I said, I bought a home up here in 2011. And so, I had, 10 plus years of really seeing what was going on and watching the market. And I always love real estate. I mean, one of the things that if you read a bunch of bios from real estate agents, one of the first things it says is, I love real estate. I've always, okay, that's great. We all like that stuff and design and architecture and so forth. So it's true. And I'm the same. But I've just, in my corporate career, it's funny. We did this. We were real challenged in the beginning of our. We were building a small company, and trying hiring people, and things weren't working out. We're trying to figure out why aren't sales where they were, blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. Anyway, and I spare you the details, but we ended up going through this process with the Gallup organization called the Strengths Finder,
Hmm.
where if people haven't heard of it, it's a super cool book and it's very thin, it's very small. You can read it. There's 3 of them, I believe, but it's like, first discover your strengths. And it basically, it's not an exam, but it's this little thing you take and it assesses 30 or 35 uh, qualities that can't be really trained, right? They're like
Hmm.
empathy. You can't really train empathy. You either have it or you don't have it.
Mm.
Analytical mind. You either have an analytical mind or you don't, or whatever. And so, my top 3 strengths were like, futuristic, strategy. I mean, things that are way up in the stratosphere. Like I'm like big picture and I can synthesize all this stuff. And like, I think we need to go this direction. Can't tell you why. That's just, but I think the Strengths Finder kind of brought that out of me. And it's funny because my boss at the time, who ended up being my business partner on a further venture, uh, you know, he would call me and he'd say, "Hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z." I'd say, "Rick, I can't do that. We just had that. Remember, I'm not good at that." He goes, "Oh yeah, yeah. Let me do this. Let me focus on the things I'm good at." And so that's the whole idea behind that. It was like,
Mm.
well, the tools they need to strengthen those key strengths they already have innately, rather than trying to force them to do something else. So that's kind of,
Yeah.
opinion, what has really helped me. So in real estate, I just I kind of feel like I can sense the market and see what people are looking for. I can, I definitely synthesize some data, but moreover, it's more kind of almost gut feel in many ways,
More
right?
intuition.
Tuition, yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Is this similar enough to the Myers-Briggs personality test? Have you done that one as well?
I have, but it's different. No, it's different, and
It's like a different kind of overlap, is it?
it's a totally different thing,
Hmm.
and it's so. I think it's called, it's Strengths Finder is what it's called, and you can buy
Hmm.
the book, and then in the back of the book is all it is ranking two sets of lists. That's all it is, from what you feel most strongly about to what you feel uh, most strongly against.
Hmm.
And there's a list of social things, and then there's a list of business and professional things, and then from that they will give you your top five, and then if you want to pay for more, they'll give you your top 35. Anyway, it's super great. And then there's another book about, now that you know these things, how do you leverage these things.
Hmm.
We did a lot of work on that in our corporate career, and I loved it. It was fantastic. So
Okay. Okay. So this question, you kind of half answered this already. So I've spoken to a couple of your clients already, and they all say you just get it. Like that's the kind of answer. I don't really know what that means. That he just gets it. I was gonna ask, is that something you can learn? I don't think we, I don't think we think it is. But what is, for someone that doesn't just get it? What does that mean specifically for what we're doing here? What does that mean?
yeah, I think for this has been a challenge. When I first started real estate, it was you know 2021, right? We're coming off COVID, and it was just like gangbusters up here. People were moving up here like left and right. I mean, it was like shooting fish in a barrel. It was easy to do, and then things started getting a little more challenging. And then we end up at this year, which is uh, what a lot of my colleagues say is the most challenging year they've seen in 35 years. That was somebody I talked to yesterday. She
Mm,
said, I've never seen this in 35 years of doing, selling real estate. Uh, so in terms of just getting it, I think that, I just, it's knowing how to position properties. I think that's just, people think that it's just about signing a listing agreement, putting it on the MLS, and then it's done. And it's not. I mean, I think there's a lot more to it. And so to me, it's like, I just feel like, look, we have to position the property the right way. We have to do these certain things, whether it's staging or whatever it may be, and really talk through that strategy of how we're going to bring this property to market. And then, in terms of when it's on, like right now, when it's on the market, do we take it off the market because the market's slow, or do we hold out? And so anyway, it's just, talking through that with clients. And I have those conversations every week with all the different clients. And I guess that's where, it's really strategy. It's strategic. And that's,
yeah.
again, that's one of my top strengths from the Strengths Finder findings. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but I mean, I just feel like it's somewhat intuition, but it's also talking through the strategy and talking through what if we do this? What if we take it off the market and we wait 30 days or wait 45 days? Okay, let's balance that with, we're still getting people calling, right,
Mm,
out of the blue. And, so are we going to miss opportunities if we do that?
okay. Okay. Was there ever a time you butted head with a client, maybe how you thought the property would be best represented versus how they originally imagined, or maybe how they represented the property? Was there any kind of mismatch there? And depending on the personality type of the client, how would you kind of go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question too, because I think that, I'm fortunate enough I'm old enough to like, I'm not going to fight with somebody that doesn't, I have a way of doing things, and it works. And it's just like saying, you go to an attorney, you're not going to tell the attorney how to practice law, or
Mm,
how, you should do it. You should argue the case this way. And so I have a formula. Our team has a formula. It's proven to work. We had, uh, um, a person call us that wanted us to take over a listing from another agent, who's a very good agent, by the way.
mm,
She wasn't seeing, traction, whatnot. And so I met with her, and, we came up with a strategy. And then it was like, well, I don't really want to do that. I want to do this. And then it's like, I don't think we need to do that. Let's do that. And then I think I'm going to rent the house, and then I want to wait. I said, you know what? I think this might not be a good fit. I just feel like maybe you would be better served working with X, another agent. And
mm,
she a little taken aback. And then 2 days later, she called and said, I think you're right. This is great. Thank you. And there's no reason for us to try to struggle through something in a
mm,
relationship. If my business, I mean, the way I do things is being questioned. And it's like, if I can't convince her how it should work using, results that we've had, then, it probably isn't a good fit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I hear you. So once the sale is done, or say if you've helped someone buy a house already, generally these people turn into lifetime clients. I see a couple of the same house kind of rotating through the system multiple times, two or three, four even times. Is that just pure relationship, or is there some other trick to it? Are the sellers or buyers looking more so at the number your guys were able to close on, or is it I just like Arthur so much, whether he can get me a better deal or a worse deal? He's just such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Does it come down to the numbers, or again, is it relationships?
No, I think it's relationship. I mean, because, I'll just give you an example. We sold a property. Well, I mean, we've sold tons of properties, but and we do this all the time, but just the one recently, and like a few months ago, I talked to giving them advice, answering questions, giving them resources, inviting them to community events, incorporate, I feel like our job as realtors is, yes, partly is to sell houses and to get buyers and sellers and so forth and so on. But when you specifically with buyers that are coming into your community,
Mm.
you want to integrate, you want to help them kind of, and get involved with the community or get exposed to all these different, things and meet new people and create community. And so to me, I feel like our job as a realtor is to help buyers that are new into, purchasing a home to become part of that community, understand what the community offers, and offer them opportunities to get involved. And that's really, and also be a resource for them. I need a builder. I need a, pest control person. I need a new pool, company or whatnot. So, I mean, that's ongoing. And I think if you be that resource, then, most of these clients become friends, super good friends of ours. Right.
Yeah.
And so, they just, and it's trust also, real estate is also, there's a lot of trust that has to go into it. As your other question, if they're not going to go with our recommendations, they just don't trust us probably. Right.
Yeah.
So that's, and I can't do anything really more than what we've done is, just to be authentic and show results that we've done. So, but yeah, I mean, it's, you have to keep that relationship up. And I think it's important to do that with buyers in particular.
Yeah. Okay. And say kind of zoomed out on like a 2, 3, 4 year type thing. You have a client that's previously bought or previously sold with you. Is there any sort of interim communication there? I know you guys send out, a quarterly or maybe an annual, a larger report. But other than that, is there any kind of just, hey, how's it going? Any just light touch points that keep you top of mind for these type of clients? Or is it a bit more formal, the emails, etc.?
No, it's, I mean, look, we use a CRM, that helps us to, reminds us when it's been a number of weeks. We have it, like for all the buyers, for all the people in certain categories, it's like every 4 weeks or every 6 weeks or every quarter or whatnot. We want to make sure that we've spoken with them or touched them in some way. Most times it's like we've already done it, but they may remind us of something we need to miss. But no, usually it's picking up the phone and just saying, hey, or saying hello, or just, thinking about them. They pop, people pop in your mind, send them a text. I've just thought about you. Hope you're well, whatever. That's it. I'm not asking for anything. Just want to let you know I was thinking about you.
Yeah.
Hope it's great. Let me know if you need anything. That's it. And just those little texts or phone calls or emails like that those are personal touches I think people appreciate.
Yeah.
And they're authentic.
I was going to say, once they're authentic as well.
Yeah. It can't be the mass, like, hey, hi, whatever. I was thinking it's got to be, the personal touch here.
Yeah.
So.
Just a ton of AI, getting the names wrong and everything.
Spelled wrong. Yes, that's happened.
Yeah. So look, with the state of real estate marketing as a whole, do you feel like the whole industry is going in a good or bad direction? I know we kind of chat a good bit about ChatGPT and these kind of some of these AI tools coming out. Do you think, because we've talked so much about relationships and authenticity already, do you think having AI this, AI that, all these automations really takes the human out of it? And do you feel like we're kind of approaching a ceiling where you've kind of gotten all of the benefit of the tools and anything else is very robotic and very inhuman? Where are we on that kind of scale?
I think that first of all, I think the AI, the whole technology can certainly help agents perform better. But again, we go back to that personal touch. Humans want personal touch. And this is purchasing or selling a home is in many cases their largest asset. And so leaving that to a computer is not going to be, it's like a stockbroker. The stockbroker still,
Mm,
they still use all this technology, but you want to talk to somebody to make sure that, like, oh my God, the market's not doing well. I need to, speak to a human rather than a machine.
yeah.
So I think it's definitely, I don't think we've gotten anywhere near where we could with, in terms of real estate. I think it's going to be a lot more technology is going to help us even be more efficient and so forth. But the human touch, the personal touch, I don't think is ever going to go away.
Mm,
Uh, I think we may need less realtors, right, because of that, the technology. But then the realtors that have that ability to, humanize the business and be authentic and connect and are going to be very successful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And just again, this is a bit of a like a closing out question, but I know you're still new enough to the game. But if you could tell yourself, one, two, three lessons or whatever at the very, very start, before you took on that very first listing, for a friend, that you didn't even think you could sell, what would it be? Is there one big learning, or is there just like these little, drops of just wisdom across the 4 years?
Um, Gosh, that's a good one. It's been a lot of drops, I'll say. I think that, you know, really assessing the market that a realtor is going to be in terms of who's in it, who's selling, how are they selling, what are they using, how do they communicate, just and trying to see what could be different. What can you do that's a little different than that? You know, um, I have a very good friend who actually, funny enough, 35 years ago came to me. He was, or 25, whatever, leaving an industry and saying, I think I want to get into real estate. I was like, do it. You're going to be awesome at it. And now he's one of the top realtors, not only in San Francisco and the Bay Area, but nationwide. And when I decided to get into this, he's like, do it. So, but I remember his recommendation, and I think it's a good one, was like, don't do another agent, don't work with anybody. Marketing, get your marketing figured out, get your
Mm,
position, get your brand, get all that figured out, get your message figured out so you can go to market with something a little different.
mm,
And I did that in some ways, but also I was thrown into this and got, this first listing, and then, sold that. And then her friend called me, and then her friend called me, and things just started rolling. And I was like, wow, this is, this is easy. And then it's like, wait a minute, I need to, like, this is going to run out. I'm going to have to continue to, figure out how this works, and creating that marketing and using that, those tools was something I had to kind of get up to speed pretty quickly on.
yeah.
I would say that I mean, I guess that's my, yeah, I think just making sure you understand your market.
Okay. Okay. And then you mentioned there kind of differentiating yourself and, standing out, not just kind of blending in. Again, a kind of a scale question here. Do you think you can differentiate too much that it's like you're trying to stand out, and then tying again back to just not really being authentic? If you're just completely out there way too far, like you're really, really trying to be different, almost over the top. Again, where is it?
Yeah, I do think that I think it's market dependent. Okay. If you're in Los Angeles, if you're in Miami, if you're
Mm,
in New York, yeah, that probably works great. Real housewives of such and such, or real realtors of so, whatever, what I'm saying. In this market, and I think in most markets, you can go a little too far. So you really have to refine in a market what's working well, and you have to understand it and then refine it,
mm,
right? And again, it's just being yourself, and you have to be a good communicator, and just somebody who listens quite well, and yeah, and trustworthy, right? And that goes back to authenticity.
yeah. Okay. Love it. Love it. Right. We'll leave the people with maybe a little value nugget. If there's any young realtors just kind of starting out with maybe no prior corporate experience, maybe this is their kind of first gig, what is the number one thing to nail within the first, year or two? What is the main focus?
You have, like, and this is a great question, because I've got a young agent that now works with me who has no relationships, right? He's 20 something, right? He's new. He doesn't have the relationships that I have with people. So, one of the things that, he loves cars, he loves watches, he's very, whatever. And I said, join the car club. right? Join and start interacting socially with people that, that eventually that the topic, you love that topic. You're going to be authentic in that environment. And those people that have these amazing cars, who knows, and already that was only like a few months ago. He's already turned that into some great relationships and a listing. And it's like, that's a perfect, because it's difficult to know what to do. You can send out emails, but nobody knows you. So just start small. Just go somewhere that, join a club, join the Chamber of Commerce, go to the meetings, go, car club, whatever it may be, and begin to build relationships, because that's what's going to take. And then nurture those things, and those expand and bring more into your sphere.
Got it. Got it. That's been
Yeah.
great, Arthur. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Fantastic.